right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is daily vlog number 1066, and today I want to talk about the Fallout. For anyone who doesn't know, there is a Fallout TV series on Amazon Prime, and wow. I watched the first episode, was immediately hooked, watched the entire thing over the past couple of days. It is a phenomenal TV show. There is, the writing is really, really good, which I've mentioned before in a couple of my videos. Writing in Hollywood has just gotten remarkably bad, even for good TV shows, or TV shows that I like a really good example. Star Trek Picard Season 3. Star Trek Picard Season 2 was a clusterfuck of horrible execution to kind of interesting ideas. Season 3, however, was significantly better done, but you would have, you could tell when a different writing team was writing an episode, because the quality of the writing would just tank instantly. Like a really good example, some slight spoilers for Picard Season 3. There is a time when they are on the Titan, which is Riker's old ship. Riker is now an admiral, and Picard is, I think he's a retired admiral at this point. But anyway, neither of them are in command of the ship. The person that is in command is actually played by a really brilliant actor, but was just giving absolute horse shit for his lines and motivations for the character. And I can't remember the captain's name, but they get on the ship. The actual captain of the ship is taken out so that he can't be in command. He gets injured. And so the captaincy of the ship goes to Riker. So before this happens, they actually go to a place on the edge of the Federation space. They get ambushed by this crazy powerful ship, and they go into a nebula to try and hide and get away from it. And it doesn't particularly work super well, but it does allow them to hide. However, while they're doing that, the captain is doing, the captain that's not unconscious at that point, is doing everything that he can to hide and run away. And Picard keeps going, no, we need to fight. We have the advantage. They don't know where we are. We have the element of surprise. We need to fight. We're never going to win this if we just keep hiding and trying to run. They're faster than us, and they have this teleportation ability thing that makes it so we're never going to be able to run. And at that point, Riker is backing him up, because Picard and Riker are besties, and they're the greatest friends, and they do anything for each other. Well, the captain goes, "This is my ship, and I'm going to protect my crew, blah, 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 blah. I'm a super hard ass, and I just hate you guys because there needs to be an antagonist in that's not a bad guy. There has to be a good guy antagonist, because that's the way we decided to write this. We're not going to give him an actual motivation as to why we're going to make him hate both Picard and Riker. We're just going to say that it's because, Picard used to be a Borg, and Riker isn't military enough for him. Let's go that. We'll never explain why." So, again, he gets injured, captaincy falls to Riker, and Riker, instead of doing what he has been begging the captain to do for, an episode and a half, he immediately goes, "Nope, we're going to do exactly what the old captain did." And they get into this heated debate with Picard and Riker screaming at each other. And Picard going, and Riker basically going, you don't understand what it's like. All these crew members, all their lives are under my control. Basically lecturing his former captain about what it's like to command a starship. When Captain Picard didn't just command a starship, he commanded 2 of the flagships of the Federation. So the most important ship in the fleet twice. He did it for the Enterprise D, he did it for the Enterprise E. And there was no build up to it. There was no nothing. They just wanted conflict between Riker and Picard. And so Riker instantly changed from Picard's my best buddy. We're besties. I'd do anything to him to you're an old man and you're stupid and old people are dumb. So anyway, getting back to Fallout, and we see that over and over. And one of the worst things about kind of writers currently is in general, like the penultimate episode, the episode before the finale, tends to be the best. It happened in Star Trek Picard. It happened in Secret Wars, which was not a phenomenally great series, but it wasn't horrible until the finale just kind of completely torched it. And I keep watching TV shows over and over. They get to the penultimate, which is really, really good, and then they just can't stick the finale over and over and over again. So, getting back to Fallout, there was one scene where it was like, oh, obviously the new guy wrote this. There is a scene where two of the characters, and this is very, very minor spoilers, but possible spoilers if you haven't watched it. Two of the characters, the female lead and the Brotherhood of Steel person that's there, who are both portrayed beautifully. They're absolutely phenomenal actors. The choices they made are brilliant. They get to a location where they're effectively quarantined after arriving in a location where they get some medical help, but before they can join the rest of the population, they've been told that they have to quarantine for a couple of days. And so the female lead, Lucy is the character's name, turns just looks at the male character. I think at this point he's going by the name Titus. Just turns to him and goes, "Want to have sex?" So that in and of itself was not the worst writing I've ever seen, but it was just so out of the blue and so weird, and they're basically on two hospital gurneys in a hallway with a giant window behind them that looks out onto basically the kind of central commons of the area. So just right away, it's like, okay, that's kind of a weird thing. But they've already kind of established in the show that this society is a little bit more sexually permissive, even talking about earlier in the first episode having relations with cousins, because the breeding stock in the vault is relatively limited. So it's already kind of been established that, sex is not quite as taboo as it is in our modern society. So that was fine. But then the response from Titus is, I think his name, it starts with a T. I'm just going to call him Titus, and if I'm wrong, just in the comments down below, tell me what the actual right name is. Titus goes, "With my cock." And the line itself was delivered poorly. It actually reminded me when I was in college, the first time. I majored in theater with an emphasis in performance. So I was an acting major, effectively. They didn't have an acting major; it was just a theater major. But theater majors had to pick a specialization. So you could have directing, you could have performance, you could have technical theater. I chose performance. So I was an acting major. And I was taking one of my first acting courses. And my class was about 7 people. We were all freshmen because this was a freshman theater major only course. And so we're all freshmen. There was various levels of experience amongst us. All of us had some acting experience, but some of us were a little bit more skilled and just more experienced than others. Like I'd done a fair amount of community theater, and I'd been working my way into becoming a professional actor. Other ones, like all they'd done is like high school stuff, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be an actor." They were all wonderful people. One of the people that I actually got paired up to do a scene with I can't even remember her name anymore because names have never been a good thing for me, and we're talking about 15, 16 years ago at this point. Um, I think it might have been Anna, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so she was former Miss Wisconsin. She was an unbelievably gorgeous woman, and she was also an extremely skilled actor. She was very, very good at what she did. However, the reason that I bring up her being Miss Wisconsin and everything, there's a reason. We were doing a scene from a show called Proof, which is all about math. It's the name actually comes from the term for a mathematical proof, which is basically how you prove that the math that you have created actually works. Mathematical proofs are a really, really big deal in math and science and everything like that. So the basic premise of the show, I can't even remember at this point, but there's a scene, and I was playing the male part, and she was playing the female part, surprisingly enough. And there's a part where we're arguing. And the scene itself has her going, "Fuck you, Hal." Because the scene gets, like, we're arguing, and she finally just kind of losing goes, "Fuck you, Hal." Well, former Miss Wisconsin didn't swear. Like, that was just, it was never something that she had done before. She considered it kind of base. And so something that a lot of people may not realize is if there are words that you don't use regularly, when you try to use them, they come out sounding weird because your mouth is just not used to phrasing them. And so the word fuck was not a word that she was used to using. And I don't think she even thought that it was going to be a problem because she knows the word. She grew up in the world. It wasn't like she was completely sheltered. She just chose not to swear. And so I didn't think either of us thought it was going to be a problem until it was. Because we're doing the scene and she's doing brilliantly and the emotions are getting really, really high. And then it gets to the point where she just has to swear at me and she goes, "Fuck you, Hal." And it was the most awkward, strange interaction I've ever had on stage. And the first few times we rehearsed it, I couldn't figure out why the scene just died at that point. And neither could she. Like, we're both sitting there like, this just feels weird, doesn't it? Yeah, I don't know. We just kept going. We finally got to work with our professor with it. And I'm going from memory from over a decade ago, so I may be filling in factors. If Anna, if you ever watch this and you remember it better than I do, feel free to comment. I sincerely doubt you will. I believe you have an actual life, but so our director just goes, "Yeah, Anna, how often do you swear?" She's, "What?" She's like, "Well, I don't swear." He's like, "Okay, well, it's obvious." She's like, "What?" Yeah, it's just, you need to practice saying the word fuck. Just fuck. Fuck, 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 fuckity, fuck, 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 fuck. You've got to practice saying the word fuck. Because it's coming out and it's such, it's coming out and it feels so wrong coming out of you that it doesn't make sense in the scene. And that is a really important, like, we can't change that line to something else because that's a really important part of the scene. Like, that's a really important part of the character. The character doesn't swear a whole ton either, especially not Hal. So the fact that she's resorting to using that, it's important in the scene. So I really need you to practice. And so she did. We ran that line over and over and over again, and she never quite got it down perfectly. She would still have this kind of hesitation around using the word. It would just be like, "Fuck you, Hal." And she had brilliant diction as well. Like, she had really perfect diction. So I don't know if she was just trying to make it very easy to understand or something like that. But it just turned, it always was this, "Fuck you, Hal." So going back to Fallout, the TV series, when he goes, "With my cock," it just felt so weird and so awkward. And it really felt like a 12-year-old boy had written that scene as part of like a fan fiction or something. Like the scene itself only lasts for like a dozen lines. Like it's a really, really short scene. But it's just so weird. And the scene actually has a purpose. Again, Titus is from a group called the Brotherhood of Steel, and it's already been shown in the show that he joined the group very, very early. And he's basically kind of grown up. And the Brotherhood of Steel itself is a kind of a combination religious military, is what they are. And so I think the scene was supposed to kind of illustrate how through dogma and kind of indoctrination that they had basically not just created a taboo around sex in general, but it basically kind of removed all ideas of sex from everyone. Like they just like the response he has is like, oh no, I couldn't do that. I've heard rumors that, you know, my cock, and he just keeps saying it in this really awkward, weird way. I've heard some guys that tried to do it, and apparently it caused their cock to swell and then basically explode. And Lucy gets the idea of, oh no, he's referring to an erection and ejaculation. And she goes, oh no, that's how it's supposed to work. Preferably every single time. And so again, it's a weird scene, and it's really, really awkward. And I think it's meant to be awkward. But for an awkward scene to be awkward, it needs to be awkward because of the character's actions, not because of poor dialogue. And that scene in and of itself was just really, really poorly written dialogue. The rest of the show is brilliant. It's such a great show. There's no pacing issues. They use, because you basically are watching 3 separate stories that kind of intermingle relatively often. You have the story of Lucy and her being a former vault dweller that's going out and looking for her missing father. You have the story of I can't remember his name. His real name starts with an M, but the Brotherhood of Steel soldier, who's kind of trying to prove himself and become a knight, and his kind of misadventures in there. And then you have the Ghoul, who you don't find out his motivation until the very end, and I'm not going to spoil it, but he has his own motivations. So you have these 3 separate stories, and they will meet fairly regularly. Like the Ghoul and Lucy travel together for about an episode and a half, basically. The Brotherhood of Steel and Lucy travel together for a little bit. There's another character from the Brotherhood of Steel has their own little kind of side story that goes off. But the writing does a really, really good job of kind of helping you understand that this is 3 separate stories that happen to be happening at the same time and in the same place that every so often interact with each other, which is really, really hard to do. And I think they pull it off really brilliantly, except for that one scene. And yeah, the pacing is really good. They do a lot of... Oh, and then there's one other kind of side story for Lucy's brother that's happening in the vault that she left, which is not so much a story about the vault, but a story about the world of Fallout. So you basically have the story of Norm, which is Lucy's brother. The story of Norm starts out with you thinking that it's about the vault, and it's more about, you know, where did, you know, the wasteland come from? Where did Vault Tech come from, and all this stuff. And so that is used kind of as a history and a way to kind of ground the audience in the world. Then you have these 3 separate character stories that intertwine. And the ultimate episode the finale is really, really well done. I had a hard time putting it down. Every single time that an episode ended, I wanted to keep going. The only issue I had with like the look of everything is really really good, except the ghoul. The ghouls in Fallout are basically smart zombies that can turn feral, and then they're just regular zombies. The ghoul is one of those zombies, and one of the kind of typical aspects of a ghoul in kind of modern Fallout games, starting with Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 and Fallout New Vegas, is they'll basically be missing their nose. And so the character themselves doesn't have a nose. They have just a kind of a big old hole in the middle of their face. And so their face has a very kind of skull-like appearance. They still have the rest of their skin. It's just the front of their nose is gone, which is perfectly fine. There are a lot of different ways to simulate not having a nose. And you can do it with practical effects. You can do it with makeup and depending on how large, like for my nose, which is ginormous, it would be an undertaking to get it to make it look like I didn't have a nose. But for someone with a normal sized nose, you can actually use practical effects and get a pretty realistic looking kind of absence of a nose. Or you can do it with CGI, which is what they did here. And the CGI, for most of it, is pretty good. Like, you don't really notice the CGI. But fairly regularly, whenever you get, instead of him looking profile, you get him looking directly into camera or close to directly into camera, it's just blatantly obvious that it's really bad CGI. The rest of the time it's perfectly fine, but I kind of would have preferred them to have done all of his makeup practically instead of using CGI to get out his nose, because the rest of his look, I believe, is all practical. I believe is all practical makeup. It's all makeup and latex and stuff like that. Like there's a lot that you can do with that with a really talented makeup team. And I think, if I'm guessing, what they did is they just painted his nose green so that they could just rip it out and replace it with whatever they want. And I don't think it went super well. The character himself is brilliant. He's played by a brilliant actor that I can't remember his name right now, but he was on Community for an episode and he was good in that too. But yeah, so Fallout, the TV series, is remarkably good. It is upsettingly good. I really, because the season finale does end on a bit of a cliffhanger, and if they wanted to end it right there, they probably could, because there is some resolution to what they wanted to do. You find out some of the secrets that have been kind of put through this into the entire thing. So if they needed to end it there, they could, and it wouldn't be the worst experience ever. However, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the last, I want to say like 10 minutes of the episode, that massively sets up a really cool sequel. Like, I want a season 2 really, really bad. Because everything was just so good. You start finding out some motivations for some of the characters that have been a little bit more cryptic. I mean, just everything about it is just really, really good. And there's a tease. There's a lot of nods to the video games series. Like, there's a scene where one of the characters is trying to get into a computer, and you suddenly just see all these lines of code with random words in there. And to anyone else, it just looks like, oh, MS-DOS is broken. But to anyone that's played Fallout 4, that's the hacking minigame from Fallout 4. You see a bunch of like ASCII code with words randomly, and you have to pick the right word. And if you pick the wrong word, you get a mistake, and you can actually be locked out of the system if you hack it wrong. It was not well loved. It was not, because there, if I remember correctly, there really wasn't a way to kind of tell which word was the right word. It was mostly just guessing. And having a hacking system based on kind of pure luck was just not really fun. but I thought that was good. And there's other nods to the series over and over and over again. I was hoping we would see. Well, I guess I won't spoil, because it's not that I would be spoiling something that's in the show. I'd be spoiling something that's not in the show. So I won't spoil that. But watch it. It's on Prime for free if you've got Amazon Prime, which is probably one of the best deals as far as like online streaming services, because Amazon Prime comes with Prime for Amazon, which gives you free shipping and a bunch of other really cool things. And it also gives you Prime Gaming, which gives you a free sub for Twitch and free games. And like it's probably the best value you're going to find for streaming services. And Prime is a pretty decent streaming service. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that because I literally just finished the last episode and it was so good. I really, really enjoyed it. I now want to go play Fallout again. I'm actually right now playing, well, not right now. Right now I'm recording, but I just started a playthrough of Outer Worlds, which is a spiritual successor to Fallout, and it's brilliant. And I've owned it for a while, and I've just never been able to get into it. And the Fallout TV series, because it's included on PS Plus. The Spacer's Choice Edition, which has everything, is included on PS Plus. So I installed on my PS5 and I've been playing it, and it's been so much fun. It's a great game. It's it's hilarious because everything is based like the premise is you go to an entire solar system that's ruled by businesses and corporations, and so like the first person you meet is literally dying from a gunshot wound that he inflicted on himself because the company he works for, Spacer's Choice, makes really kind of faulty, cheap products, and his gun misfired and shot him in the side. And so the first thing you see is goes, yeah, no, don't come any closer. Had to come closer, and you talk to him. He's like, you've tried the rest. You've tried the best. Now try the rest. Spacer's Choice. And that's the slogan for Spacer's Choice. And everyone in the game just slings these slogans at you because it's part of existing in this particular world. Everybody is referred to as employee, and it's really funny. It's really great satire. So anyway, it's going to be all for me today. I will see you guys tomorrow. All right? Bye-bye.